Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Coin Republic podcast when we're talking about the holy grail of blockchain technology. The holy trinity comes up. There are, different concepts, different companies in the early stages of blockchain's future that focused on the development of the technology. More importantly, when we get in touch with these KOLs, we'll get to understand how the history looked from the futurist perspective. Today, I am joined by Swarm. Swarm is a decentralized storage and communication system for a sovereign digital society. Swarm is a system of peer to peer network nodes that create a decentralized storage and communication service. The system is economically self sustaining due to built in incentive system enforced through smart contracts on the Ethereum blockchain. There were not only peers to Ethereum, they existed prior to that. But why should I tell you this story? I'm just a journalist. I'm here to ask the question. I'm going to have the one and only Gregor Zavzer on the show to talk about Swarm. So without a further ado, let me introduce you guys to the screen, the one and only Gregor Zavzer.
Hello, it's good to be here. Thank you for inviting us, and excited to tackle all the questions.
So let's go deep, take a deep dive at your protocol from the head of Exit Festival, which is the top music festival, to Swarm. How has your journey been thus far?
Um, I think like you said, a journey is the right description. It's I always, whenever whatever I've been doing, for me it was always important that there was meaning and purpose to it. And in a way, I'm actually right now, just by coincidence, in Novi Sad. I'm not from Novi Sad, where the Exit Festival is headed. And like half an hour ago, I met a friend from Exit Festival, and he asked me like, "What are you doing?" And I said, I'm doing kind of the
Mhm.
same thing. It's just a different genre. Before it was music. Now it's tech, and it's all about, in a way, activism and empowering freedom. So, in this way, it's been a journey. I've always been in the technology space. Started to code with, I don't know, I think it was like 10 or 11. Today, I do not consider myself a developer. I'm more like a weekend warrior in
Okay.
that sense. And it's been like always kind of like an ever evolving story. So it's Exit Festival was addressing social issues. Today, we are addressing social issues. And yeah, this red line kind of stayed. I've been over the time involved with startups, started my own startups. It's always I've been looking into business models and how they can actually make the society better. And this was also for me the moment where I got excited about Ethereum and Swarm. I remember it was something like in 2015. Back then I was living in Vienna, and with a friend we got to the first Ethereum meetup there, and Vitalik was there.
Wow.
It was, I think it was something like 10 to 15
Right.
people. Nobody really knew what blockchain
Mm.
is. At that point, Vitalik was also not really confident if Ethereum is actually going to happen.
Mm.
But it was clear that Ethereum is enabling decentralized business models, that it's putting power in the hands of the people, and this was the changing moment. This was also the first time I heard about Swarm. Um, it was the answer to also the projects I was back then also looking more into healthcare kind of design, how to manage data
Mm.
in such a way that this data wouldn't be abused. So I was dealing with user modeling and kind of similar things as Cambridge Analytica was
Okay.
doing, but just for healthcare. For those who know what to do with personal data, uh, it's it can be frightening how exposed we can be. So Ethereum and Swarm here, in my view, address like fundamental questions in how do we stay in an ever evolving digital world? How do we stay free?
I've heard so many stories about Vitalik. And interviewed so many people. Everybody has a Vitalik story almost, especially people from Switzerland, people who went to Zug and saw him in the early stage. Could you give your one Vitalik story? Maybe you know him, maybe a small story.
It's okay. I wouldn't say that I know him. We bumped into each other, so to speak, in the early
Hmm.
days. It was a small
Mm.
community, so essentially everybody was bumping into each other this or the other way. Um, what what kind of stayed with me is, in a way, I think Vitalik is very
Mm.
consistent. And already back then, at this meetup that I mentioned, I think he had quite a good idea where things are going and should be going,
Interesting.
while the rest of us were quite
Yeah,
confused.
what made him
So
special? What? Because you guys all came from the similar space, technical. You guys programmed. You guys, from a highly dense computer science background, right? But yeah, I mean, we hear stories that he had it, like he had that, vision. What made him special? What made him different?
it's um, it's a good question. Well, I would say, I would say, like, simple answer is that some people just outsmart others. So it's the way he connects the dots. I haven't seen many people do
So
that.
how would you
So
connect it to Holy Trinity? Because I was reading about it that other day. I'm so glad that you mentioned it. If you would like to explain it to the uninitiated, people don't know about blockchain history. What is Holy Trinity? How did you come into the equation? And of course, how did he outsmart you in that process?
so for me, it was the entry into the decentralization and blockchain world was Ethereum. I didn't know about Bitcoin before, but it kind of did not speak that well to me. I was interested in decentralized business models, and my formal background is actually not computer
Okay.
science. It's more business and cognitive
Okay.
science. So when I remember when Vitalik had like this, when he had presentation, there was a slide, and on this slide, it was about the word computer, and there were three logos. It was the Ethereum blockchain, it was Whisper, and Swarm, and I was like, yes, that's it. It's like the idea of the world computer, where everybody can use the resources in a trustless way and basically has access to data without being exposed or basically exploited by some central actors. That really resonated with me. And in this way, I saw that this is the step forward. I've been always on, maybe here it's a bit different take. I've been always more interested in the data aspect and how we handle the data than necessarily what blockchain does itself. I do believe that blockchain is the crucial piece of technology that does connect also other technologies in a meaningful way. And this is the world computer.
So I was going through Swarm website, and it was said that you guys have no control over how Swarm ecosystem evolves. So how do you guys make sure that the protocol is evolving in a right direction? Given the fact that one point you were taken in the same names with Ethereum, Whisper, and yourself forming that trinity, now you're in your own path. Are you ensuring that stays intact?
That's a great question. So it's today, the landscape is quite a lot different than it used to be in 2015. It's actually radically different. Back in 2015, there was just Ethereum. Today, we see many blockchains, rollups, etc. It's a lot more diverse ecosystem. So in that sense, I would say also the scope of Ethereum Foundation on one side changed. They're a lot more focused on the blockchain itself, and there's less of a narrative about the word computer. It's just too big in that sense. Um, so this was kind of also, I would say, the reason that everybody tackles their own part. Now, by saying no, having no control about the ecosystem, it's Swarm is an open, permissionless network. All the code is open source. We cannot. It's just in that sense. It's about having the awareness that anybody can join it. Anybody can upload to Swarm whatever they want. Anybody can develop whatever they want on top of Swarm. Now, what we can do is. We can, as the philosophers would say, we can work on our good
Mm,
character. We can use the power of positive incentives. So how do we, what kind of examples we give, what kind of projects we support, etc. This is within our reach. um,
mm,
it's Now when it comes to the protocol level, we are essentially here kind of following also Ethereum Foundation's lead on, which is following also previous projects like Bitcoin, and Bitcoin is following other projects like uh, I would say Python. So it's kind of engaging the community, giving them option to propose improvements. These improvements are then being discussed and included in the
mm,
roadmap. So right now, Swarm in that sense is also at a turning point. It's been really hard technical problem to solve. So it's how do we make the incentives work to form a truly decentralized permissionless system. When we speak about decentralized storage, uh, uh, here most of the solutions we see today, or in general many solutions in the blockchain space, are about more coordinating computers, coordinating, being a marketplace between one side or the others. In case of decentralized storage, it's about coordinating the marketplace between those who offer storage and those who need storage. Swarm takes here things, I would say, to the next level, because when somebody uploads data to
mm,
Swarm, they're not forming a contract with a particular
mm,
storer. They're getting into an agreement with the network. The file, when I upload a file to Swarm, it gets broken down into little pieces, distributed across the network, and node operators, they don't know what they store. And this is very important also to ensure, on one side, that node operators are secure and not liable for any kind of things or regulatory requirements. And on the other side, it's also a very important part that the network is truly censorship resistant. So this was a hard problem to
mm.
crack. And we just essentially, it was like a 7 years old journey to really explore this. And here we will be also always thankful to the Ethereum Foundation that Swan was able to be under its wings for about 5 years.
Absolutely.
This created the
Mm,
space needed to do this research. It's like, in general, the projects need to think about quick go to market solutions and things like that. With Swarm, it was always about problem solving, and we are really grateful for this. And today, I believe, and this is, I wouldn't, this is a shared belief, we have superior architecture that is future proof, and it's also AI friendly, decentralized AI friendly. So I think Swarm is a really good example of decentralized infrastructure, and this is what we are going to build
I'm
on.
glad that you said that. A lot of valuable points over there because in this podcast, most of the questions are geared towards the Holy Trinity, Whisper, Swarm, Ethereum, and then the blockchain trilemma: scalability, speed, and security. Right. So I was, Swarm has incorporated Whisper, which is highly interoperable, right? It allowed users messaging between same network. So, from an interoperability standpoint, how do you see Swarm at this stage?
It's again, it's a great question, and interoperability is, I would say, quite in the center of all that we do on various levels. Swarm itself, it's a base infrastructure level, and it's what we say, it's loosely coupled to the blockchain. So it's about essentially deposits, withdrawals, postage stamp management, but Swarm works on its own as a hard
Hmm.
drive. So and we it's always been on the roadmap, and this is also one of the reasons why Swarm is operating from Swarm Foundation side now, to have multi-chain
Hmm.
support. There should be, in our opinion, one Swarm connecting to all the blockchains. That's what truly makes it world computer hard drive. And it's in this way. There's also, it's about interoperability. Essentially, is the countermeasure against data
Hmm.
silos. So connecting to all the EVM compatible blockchains is definitely one of, it's on the roadmap and one of the things that we want to do. We haven't been so much active on this part because of several reasons. One is that we first want to get the network right, and in just reducing complexity, for now working with just one blockchain. The other part is that also the landscape is really evolving very fast. What we see today with optimistic rollups, ZK, EVMs, etc. So, but the future is definitely multi-chain, and this is what we are starting to actually work on now. Now, the other important thing is also that I think when we speak about interoperability, and because you asked before about how we basically steer the ecosystem, we try to incentivize layer two projects that also embrace interoperability on app level. It's in a way the current Web 2 with, let's say, with mobile convinced us that the apps are just bundled, that an app is consists of the UI, the algorithms, and the data. But this shouldn't be the case. It's like the data should work for the users, and there shouldn't be any boundaries because of it. We should be able to merge and use data from different apps, and other apps should also be able to basically build upon this. So Swarm has been for years now also supporting and incubating an ecosystem initiative called Fair Data Society, which is creating also decentralized Dropbox kind of like app for the end users,
Hmm.
but also it's a data wallet for the dev developers that has interoperability at its heart. Moreover, we do want to here also give a good example to the wider community. And when we speak about interoperability, there should also be interoperability between different decentralized storage networks.
Hmm.
As a user, it's like when I go online and use a web app, I do not know what kind of backend they are using. Are they using Microsoft Cloud or Google Cloud or anything? And as a user, I actually do not care. So but we should be thinking and be mindful of this as developers when we are building web
Hmm.
3. Is in blockchain space, many dApps and projects dealing with data say the data belongs to the user.
Hmm.
But that's good. That's good. It's good. It's value alignment. It's the first step. However, if this data is fragmented through many user accounts, and if we as developers and community don't work together, this data is useless. It's like having all my data across 100 USB keys. What am I going to do
Exactly.
that with that? It, but it's not useful. So interoperability, I would say it's extremely important. It's the antidote, and to data silos, and we need to look at it also to prevent that the same patterns are just going to be repeated on decentralized technology. So yes, thank you for
Yeah,
this
what
question.
a
Yeah, I'm very passionate about
what a coincidence, because you talked storage quite a lot. My next question is about storage. The previous interview that I did just an hour ago, was with the founder of FileMarket.xyz, and we talked about tokenization of files and data management and how they could tokenize it and send it across. When I see your data storage capability, storing 1 gigabyte for a month on Swarm cost around less than a cent, $0.09, I think, which is very, very less as compared to other storage solutions. If it once the network sees a huge influx of data and node operators, will the cost of storage see an increase within infrastructure cost? That's an interesting angle, I've thought.
um, I would say it depends on more factors. So the answers would the short answer would be just maybe. And what I mean with more factors, it's been one of these hard problems to solve. Is how does the network adapt to data demand and supply? So it's the prices. The prices are meant to be adjusting based on these factors. And if the price of the storage is rising, this serves as an incentive for new nodes to join.
Mm,
So in that sense, the prices should be regulating itself. We've been testing it now for several months, and we are just about to release what we call the price oracle. It's an on-chain price oracle that does exactly this, adjust the storage prices based based on the supply and demand in the network. Now, having said this, I think it's also very important um, to to note it's when we speak about blockchain, there's a lot of times there's usually always said it's clear that we cannot use blockchain in such a way as we would use the cloud for computing. And here also, I think this also applies to the storage itself. What I mean with this is um, how much is censorship resistance
mm,
worth? How much is it worth to not be a honeypot of data? How much is it worth that there's no other limitations? We've seen um, how cloud providers can restrict access overnight, and users don't have any possibility to do this. So, what's the price tag we give on censorship resistance, on privacy, on basically permissionless access? In this way, I would say that what we will see in the future is a combination of all. So different use cases for different data and what we need the data for. Swarm, in particular, I would say is very suitable for what we call a fair data
mm,
economy. So for a lot of transactions, um, for sending data packages back and forth, there are two types of incentives: storage and bandwidth incentives. And for popular data, Swarm can also work as a content delivery network, as a CDN. So um, there's, I think, different aspects to it. We've been speaking with various enterprises. When they look at Swarm, uh, they are not considering just storage price,
mm,
they're also considering reduction of
mm,
costs in terms of
mm,
security. Censorship resistance from the enterprise angle means ransomware being ransomware
mm.
proof. So there's like several factors. And we see with growing regulation also that personal data for enterprises, especially here in Europe, is becoming most quite often more of a liability than an asset. So it's, I would say, a complex question, and it's definitely also there needs to be more time passing for us as an industry to have a clearer picture on this.
Okay, fair enough. Let's talk about the BZZ token. All right, is the supply of
Mhm.
BZZ token fixed or deflationary? And can I stake the token? And what kind of rewards will I get while I stake the token?
So BCC token is an ERC20
Mm,
token. Uh, one of the reasons for big reasons for ERC for BCC token is exactly the interoperability between blockchains that you
Mm,
mentioned. Um, there's the supply of BCC token is regulated by our bonding curve. It's a minimum change in the total supply, so there's no drastic change. But it's also meant that it kind of adjusts to fluctuations in the network. So depending again, in that sense, BCC token can be also
mm,
deflationary or inflationary depending on how the network grows. The bonding curve does make it sure that when the total supply grows, it's the value of the whole network increases. So
mm,
it's positive. It's net positive in that sense. Now, because of the incentives that we have in place, it's I would say that BCC token is one of the really good examples of a utility
utility.
token, and it's also been classified as a pure utility token by FINMA. This is the Swiss financial regulator, the equivalent of SEC in
Mm,
US. Um, the staking happens only when running a full node, and if the node operator wants to be part of the storage rewards. Then basically um, there's a so-called shelling game. It's like every epoch. So in intervals, there are challenges presented to the network where storage operators demonstrate that they are holding the data, and they get rewarded in tokens. Right now, to speak some numbers, is the staking requirement is 10 BUS tokens, and we see this is something that changes though, not the staking part, but we see that current reward pot, so every epoch, the reward right now is 40
okay.
tokens. So I would say it shows as a good incentive to actually join the network, operate a node, as the stake can be uh, earned very, very quickly back.
Right.
So now it's time to join the network.
So
Yes.
BZZ is currently present in Gate.io and various other exchanges. Are you guys planning to expand more to other exchanges? Is there gonna be an upcoming airdrop that we're supposed to keep an eye on?
So I cannot comment on all of these things. I will do my best, and it's essentially we are not active because we are a utility
Mm,
token. It's we do have restrictions in how we engage exchanges
mm,
themselves. As engaging exchanges can be considered actually that we treat token as a security token. The listings that we have, they were done in an organic way. It's exchanges have been listing us on their own. We do see that there is an increased interest in the BUS token. So this might be followed by developments like additional listings, but this is not something that is under our control. Now, when it comes to airdrops, it's we do not plan to do exactly like an airdrop, traditional airdrops the airdrops that we see in the recent times. There is since the inception of the project, there is a pool of tokens that is meant for the community and for the growth of the community. However, it's like we just don't want to do like a airdrop by sending the tokens, and these tokens, I don't know, like what happens with them. There's a We want to engage the community that is part of the Swan
mm,
network. In concrete terms, again, what this means is there's a preparation now. We are preparing an ecosystem initiative called the Great Data
mm,
Upload, where we plan to work with the community to bring humanity's good data onto Swarm.
Mm.
And this will be done with its own incentive, with its own rewards for the uploaders, for the maintainers, for the node operators. So there is, I would say, definitely, I would repeat this, it's a good time to join the ecosystem and to be on the lookout how to be an active member of the community and also be rewarded for
I
that.
agree. I personally agree that journalists should keep a keen eye on utility tokens over meme tokens, although that the latter has great headlines and all. It's because data is the new oil, and you guys definitely have a lot to do with the emerging tech era. And on that note, I do have a question. Data immutability is something which blockchain can help AI models to prevent accidental modifications. But if we look at the other aspect of it, like data errors in model of removal of private data, it can be a hectic task. What is your opinion regarding that?
That's awesome. That's awesome. It's so Swarm itself is also an immutable data network.
Hmm.
It's a very important property of the network, also leading to the advantages that I mentioned before. Um, it's also quite a lot to unpack in this question, and I'll try to give it
Hmm.
justice. So, at the center is that first, data owners should have full control of the data. So be that which when if we translate this, for example, to personal data, it means they should have the access. They should be able to know to whom the data is shared and what it is used for. It's in that sense. This also, when we speak about public data, Swarm here can help and show like help with so-called data
Hmm.
provenance. Basically, tracking from where the data is coming from and how that data is being used. Combining these things, it's also gives us more transparency. So when we speak about models and things like that, it's really interesting, to see like I think 2 weeks or something like that ago, Meta open sourced the Llama 2
Hmm.
model. Uh, and what they did not disclose is what kind of data they've been using on training the model. We also with other what other happenings in the space is OpenAI with ChatGPT is actually having a lot of issues in terms of privacy and again like copyright, which data is being used. Twitter is threatening Microsoft
Hmm.
that they're going to sue it for scraping the
Hmm.
data. So Google changed its terms and conditions policy that they now scrape the whole
Hmm.
internet. Now on Swarm, the agency is given to the users. So it needs to be done in a transparent way. Data owners should be rewarded. The value of the data should be fairly distributed, and this is what we set the rails for. So it's an important question, and I would say that Swarm tackles this on fundamental
Hmm.
level by giving full control to the user. Again, here I mentioned before the Fair Data Society initiative, which is operating on layer two, and the Fair Drive app. For the Fair Drive app, we also describe it as a digital safe place for the individual, and it's the individuals should have the power to basically collect and combine the data in such a way that also they can create personal AIs that respect these kind of rights and
Hmm.
values.
Let's
I hope it.
No, that's a fantastic answer. It did justice to that question. Let's expand on that just a little bit. You talked about data immutability. Let's talk about data authenticity. Deep learning models like DALI and Midjourney or various other models has profound potential, right? But the image produced by it can be used to manipulate the general consensus of public. How does blockchain come into play for these models of data authenticity?
Mm, that's a That's a great question. It's I think here we need to kind of separate the concerns. So in a way, uh, sworn scope is how to deal with data once the data is on the network. Now, when I upload, if one uploads the data to the network, or Swarm is as a permissionless network, it's not censoring any kinds of data, and we cannot also, the network is not validating the data itself. This question therefore needs to be actually tackled on layer two, with the applications, where we see that and there's been actually in our ecosystem, we've seen already efforts that, for example, there's one project which is about uploading photos onto Swarm, and these photos are also cryptographically signed with the help of also with the help of blockchain, notarized, and it's clear like when this photo was uploaded and by whom, and it has also the digital stamp on it. So this kind of can counter the idea of fake data. I think what we will need to see also as users going forward is, and especially like as you point out, like with generative AI, is that the digital signatures will become immensely important. They will need to, this kind of metadata, so to speak, will need to be like um, an essential part of the content itself.
Hmm. Interesting.
What's Swarm here at the same time, where Swarm's guarantees kick
Uh-huh.
in, is because of its content-based addressing. It's essentially, I will skip now the technical part, but once the data is uploaded onto the Swarm network, and if it's uploaded in such a way that there's a corresponding data to verify its truthfulness, this data cannot be changed, and it can be verified very easily by anybody that the data is consistent as it was in the beginning. So in a very similar way, as it's like when a transaction happens on the blockchain,
Hmm.
we know that basically nobody could have changed it.
Hmm. Okay, I'm really obsessed over this, but you seem to be one of the most intellectual guests I have had. So let's really expand on the data angle a little bit further. Federated learning for
Yeah.
training the models and smart contracts for data validation is an expanding field in this space. Is Swarm working towards training new AI models for each smart contracts validation?
I love that question. It's so with Swan, we really try to be mindful of our scope and being the base layer. Here, in that sense, we are not really tackling directly AI itself, but we do want to establish proper rails for AI applications and utility to come to life. Now, with its unique and extremely decentralized architecture, it's here Swarm comes very close uh, to yes, a description of neural networks. It's like each node can do also its own computation, and this can be implemented through what we call decentralized service networks. Already in 2017, we published research detailing how these decentralized service networks could work on top of Swarm. Um, and this is where also federated machine learning comes into play. It's in a way, uh, Swarm is also ready for what we see might be next generation AI technology, in the sense that today we see a lot of concentration in building big data centers, in having we see headlines, this company bought so many NVIDIA chips and this one bought so many and they do so much training, and this is quite centralized. Um, we see Swarm can in the future can actually work in a way where computation itself is the network
Hmm.
protocol, and that's essentially at the core of I would say also approaches like federated machine learning. I think what we miss today in the AI discussion is that it actually all starts with data, and proper data management and handling then opens new possibilities and also new markets
Mm,
on top of it. There can be markets for computation, there can be markets for models. All these can actually lead to a very new and diverse ecosystem on
mm,
top. But we need strong foundations
mm,
um, onto which basically nobody really needs to put trust in a single actor. So,
mm.
like, essentially, what the promise of blockchain
Gotcha,
is.
gotcha. I recently read about Hive Maker Code Block, which is kind of a toolkit for growing a decentralized ecosystem. Can you expand more on this data and its swarm based on it? Is it based on it?
Yes. So, the Hive Makers Code, we just recently published it. We are also we have more articles also in the pipeline, and it's with partners. We did it was an ongoing research also, and we developed a toolkit on how to approach the ecosystem development in such a way that we facilitate value aligned emergent
Mm,
ecosystems. So we are using it internally. It informs our strategy. It informs exactly what I mentioned before. Like how can we, in a meaningful way, use the power of positive
mm,
incentives, and at the same time, we also felt that this can be also useful to other ecosystem creators, and that's why we shared the toolkit. We see it also as a conversation starter in how can we approach building a digital society that it's actually value
mm.
aligned, that it's that where the also collaboration can be demonstrated as a powerful force in the same way as competition. So competition usually arises on its own. Collaboration needs more effort. We believe that both forces are needed to really build and enable a fair data economy.
Final question. Can you throw some light on how one can create NFT on Swarm and store metadata on it?
Yes, it's very simple. So it's essentially um, how NFTs work. NFTs are tokens that have expanded that are expanded with metadata. So they have a field that links to metadata. Now, the criticism of NFTs was that many NFTs, especially in the early days, were storing data on centralized servers like Amazon and stuff like that. So essentially, here the process is same as with any other. First, the data is uploaded to Swarm, and the references to the data, the Swarm hashes, are basically used as pointers in these NFTs. And in this way, the NFTs, I would say, become truly unstoppable. There is not a central entity that can restrict the data and basically make that NFT worthless. So we recently also published a short tutorial. It's for Web3 developers. I think I was playing I was playing with it myself. It took me maybe, I don't know, like 1 or 2 hours to do it. So it's quite a straightforward process.
Mm.
At the same time, if there would be any additional information or support needed, I would just invite everybody to join our Discord servers and ask the community. Um, as a disclaimer, I haven't been working on the tutorial that we published. I was doing a little bit more experimental stuff. I just wanted to see how to create an NFT on Swarm with a Viper
Mm.
contract. So I didn't want to use Solidity, and it's been very easy. Yes, it's been fun.
It is fantastic. I have so many other questions in terms of security, the recent curve attack, and I mean, I could make it more valuable, but unfortunately, we're running out of time. So, I am going to conclude this podcast with this note that I have done around 100 interviews in my career, and out of all of these interviews, if there's top 10 most intellectual podcasts, this definitely comes in the top 10 top five at least. So we're gonna have more meme coins and airdrop related podcasts later. But I've had my journalist moment today. I appreciate this podcast, Mr. Gregor. One of the things that I can promise you is that I'm gonna keep a close eye on your Hivemaker Code blog. It's a very you guys provide quite a lot of value and makes us our work a little easier. So please keep on publishing content, and nice to stay in touch. Let's stay in touch. Whatever you guys do, I'm gonna keep a close eye on you. I'm also gonna join your Discord.
Yes, thank you very much, and thank you for the compliment. I need to also return it. It's like the questions were excellent. It's I truly enjoyed being here, and it it felt like it feels just like a great opportunity to share our passions and what we are all about. It's Thank you very much. Great
Muchas
questions.
gracias.
Happy, yeah,
Sure.
be here. Thank you.
Absolutely. We'll see you guys on the other side. Follow Mr. Gregor on everywhere. Become a part of their community. Till then, utility is the ultimate keyword. Utility tokens are important. Keep an eye on them, gentlemen and ladies. And